Join me today for part 3 of the Halloween movie retrospective. Today, we're going to be covering Halloween 7 and 8, which are also known as Halloween H20 and Halloween Resurrection, respectively. Welcome to part 3 of the Halloween movie series retrospective. This is here on the Geek Cabal channel. I'm Bob. And today, we're going to be talking about Halloween's part 7 and 8, which, as I mentioned in the intro, are respectively known as Halloween H20 and Halloween Resurrection. Now, the one, it's listed as, it looks like H2O. It has nothing to do with water. It's the letter H and the number 20, because it's 20 years later. Unfortunate, messaging on that one, I guess. Halloween Resurrection, no idea why it's called that. Don't know who got resurrected. That's just the subtitle. Which brings me to the first part of this, which is the pet peeve of the Halloween franchise, deciding to take a page from the Fast and Furious franchise and just scattershot dealing with how they name their sequels. So you have Halloween 1, which doesn't have a 1 because it's the first one. Then Halloween 2, which is just Halloween 2, no subtitle. Then Halloween 3, as depicted here in this giant disc thing that Jim has let me borrow here, which has the subtitle of Season of the Witch. Then you have Halloween 4, which I want to say is The Return of Michael Myers. Halloween 5, which I think also has a subtitle, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head. And then Halloween, I believe it's The Curse of Michael Myers, is what Halloween 6 is known as. I don't think it's actually called Halloween 6. I think it's just the subtitle. And then, while I'm talking, I'm going to look that up. So then you have Halloween, which would be 7 if it were numbered, is Halloween H2O, which again is 20, not 2, and then the letter O, and then Halloween Resurrection. But then you get into the 2 Rob Zombie movies, which the first one's just Halloween or Rob Zombie's Halloween. And then I think the other one is just known as Halloween 2 again. And let me see what we got here. So you have, the second Rob Zombie movie is also again known as Halloween 2. And then, so part 4 is The Return of Michael Myers. Part 5 is The Revenge of Michael Myers. And those have both a number and a subtitle. Then 6 is just Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Even though it's clearly the continuation, it does not have the number 6. So the second one just has a number. The third one begins subtitles with numbers. The sixth one begins just the subtitles. Then Rob Zombie goes back to Halloween and Halloween 2. And then you have the 3 newer ones where Jamie Lee Curtis returns, again, with the first one known as Halloween, the same name as the first movie in the series, and then Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. So at least they're consistent in that part of the naming scheme. But yeah, it's kind of all over the place. And yeah. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about parts 7 and 8, which, as I said, are H2O and Resurrection, respectively. Now, I just want to make 2 quick notes that I was hoping to record a little blurb to put before the second one of these about the first and second videos in the series. There are 2 things I meant to mention. 3 things, sorry. In the first movie, I meant to mention, in the first one, talking about the first movie, that's, among other things, it's also where it begins with everyone blaming Dr. Loomis. Starting with the sheriff, who's like, and if you're right, if he is here and killing people, then damn you for letting him out. And Dr. Loomis is like, whoa, 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 buddy. Like, I'm the guy here to stop him. I did not let him out. And then the second one, they curse him for letting him out. I'm pretty sure they're doing the 4th and 5th one as well. So it's a trend where people just don't listen to Dr. Loomis because he definitely didn't let Michael Myers out. But here we are. Excuse me. And then Halloween 4 starts the trend of like super strength Michael Myers. Like he's clearly stronger in part 2 than he was in part 1. But in part 4, like he literally kills one guy by pressing his thumb into the guy's forehead, like through his skull. Another, he tears a guy's throat out, like with his bare hand. It's just gone. So 4 is definitely the beginning of like super strength Michael Myers. Uh, and then let's see. The other thing was 6 is the start of on the music front, including like electric guitar riffs for Michael Myers. Also, Michael Myers moves a lot faster in parts of the 6th one. Normally, he's like slow and plodding. This is kind of at like a not quite at a jog yet, but definitely walking at a more brisk pace. And like I said, the intro of like using electric guitar music to kind of jazz up the theme to like, hey, shit's about to hit the fan kind of moments. So you have that. Then also, 4 and 5 visually look very similar to each other. So they're definitely filmed close to each other, whereas 6 definitely came out a few years later. Like just the overall look of the film is a little bit different. Like the actual picture quality. So it's definitely shot on a different kind of camera. And again, there's some departures from the series, but it is clearly the continuation of the story in 4 and 5. And so 4, 5, and 6 do make a narrative arc. And I don't know that 6 was intended to be an end point. But you had the death of Donald Pleasance, which ended the Dr. Loomis character. And at the end, where he's like screaming while Michael's killing him off screen, presumably, that's actually from Halloween 4, from the end of the movie, when he sees that Jamie Lloyd is like tried to kill her stepmom. Uh, so you have those things, but like I said, 4, 5, and 6 is more they're cohesive arc, but I don't know that it was meant to be an end, because Michael obviously doesn't die. But then again, the first one was supposed to have an end and wasn't supposed to continue even though Michael doesn't die. But the one other thing was in part 4, there's a scene where the kids are just ludicrously cruel to Jamie Lloyd. It's Halloween. She's not wearing a costume, and all the kids are like, "Oh, where's your costume, Jamie?" And they're like, "Every day's Halloween at Jamie's house. Jamie's uncle's the boogeyman, and it's like, and Jamie's parents are dead. She's an orphan." And they're just so like over the top cruel to this little girl. And because I was watching on TV the other day, and I completely forgot that scene was in there. So, and there's a similar scene back in the first movie where these kids are harassing Tommy Jarvis's character, in which Paul Rudd's character in Part 6 is supposed to be Tommy Jarvis from the first movie, the boy that Jamie Lee Curtis is babysitting. So anyway, I just wanted to mention some of those things because they might be relevant to some other entries in the franchise, and I don't think I mentioned them back in that first one. So on to what we all came here for, hopefully, parts 7 and 8. Now, Halloween H2O, Halloween H20, which I'm not going to keep calling it that, I'm going to call it Halloween 7. It sees the return of Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, the initial versions of this plot, the drafts of the script, did have lines that would have connected it back to 4, 5, and 6. But they ultimately got rid of those and instead favored showing Jamie Lee Curtis as a pill-popping alcoholic trying to overcome the fact that her brother murdered all kinds of people back on Halloween night several years ago. So she's become the head mistress of a school in Southern California, which brings us kind of full circle because Haddonfield doesn't exist in Illinois. It was mainly filmed in Pasadena, California. And they, in fact, in the first movie, if you check, a lot of the license plates still say California. They didn't bother to change the license plates. And to do the effects for any kind of leaves, because of the foliage, well, that just doesn't really happen in Pasadena, I don't believe, or they filmed at the wrong time of the year or something. So they only had so many, so they'd like put them out on the ground, fake leaves, and then had to get them all back up for the next shot someplace else because they were very tight budget. And apparently the street names all come from somewhere in Kentucky, and there's some other city. So all kinds of bits and pieces of various cities come together to make Haddonfield, which again doesn't actually exist in Illinois. So this movie is actually filmed in California and takes place in California. And in this one, Jamie Lee Curtis's character has been at the school for a while. She has a son played by Josh Hartnett, and he is his 17th birthday. She's a single mom. Dad left a long time ago because she's crazy. And a few other actors and actresses. I believe Michelle Williams is in the movie, and LL Cool J is in the movie. And also, as I mentioned way back talking about the first movie, Janet Leigh, this is where she comes up again. She plays someone else at the school. And so she is Jamie Lee Curtis's mother and was in the movie Psycho as the woman that gets killed in the shower. So the first woman in the movie. And so yeah, so she's in the movie, and it's kind of funny. She's in a few scenes here and there, but the final scene she's in is they're both outside the school, and she's getting ready to get into her car, which is like some big like 1950s style car. And I'd really need to check the movie Psycho. It might even be the same car she drove in the movie Psycho, but it's definitely supposed to evoke that. And she repeats one of the lines from the first movie after she startles Jamie Lee Curtis's character, when she's like, "Oh, I suppose everyone's entitled to one good scare." Then I mentioned the second movie ends with the song "Mr. Sandman" playing on the radio. Well, early on in this movie, Jamie Lee Curtis's character is driving her car and turns the radio on, and that song starts playing. And you find out for some other scenes that Michael Myers goes to where Dr. Loomis's records are kept, and that's how he finds out where Jamie Lee Curtis is, and kills some people there, including the nurse from the first two movies. Same actress plays her. She gets killed, and these two neighbor kids, and one of them is someone that I should know off the top of my head, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt is who one of them is, and the other one looked kind of familiar too, but I'm not gonna bother. It's no one like super famous. So anyway, so they get killed, and you see Michael going across country, little road trip, and Josh Hartnett's character is acting up because his mom is a total basket case, and so they sneak out of the school. It's a private school. They sneak out and go into town, and one of them goes and steals some wine because all the kids are getting ready to go on this trip to Yosemite. Well, his mom won't sign the permission slip, so he's not going because, again, basket case. And a couple other kids don't want to go either. One of them can't, and I think two others don't. So they're all just going to stay there and drink and presumably screw and other things because, high school kids in a horror movie. So that's what they all intend on doing. But at the last minute, she signs his permission slip, and then he pretends to leave but doesn't. And so, yeah, and then LL Cool J plays the security guard. And that's about it. There's like one other adult in the movie. He's another professor. And he's stuck there too. So he and Jamie Lee Curtis kind of have a thing. And she gets a little drunk and basically finally tells him like why she's the way she is. And, he's heard, of course, heard the story of Michael Myers because in universe, it's a famous set of killings and everything. So, everyone's heard about it. It's big news. Except now, no one's seen Michael Myers in years. And then he was like, oh, but I heard the sister. Yeah, but I heard she died, which is the plots to 4, 5, and 6. And she's like, no, she didn't die. She changed her name. And now she runs a school in Southern California. And he's like, oh, so it's you. She's like, yep. And he's like, well, that explains a lot. And he's like, you want some more booze? I'm like, yes, please. So, yeah. And then Michael Myers shows up and starts killing people. Now, this movie definitely has a lower body count because there's only 7 people at the school. And you're reasonably certain he's not going to kill Jamie Lee Curtis. Probably not going to kill her son. and probably not going to kill his son's girlfriend. So that really only leaves like two of the other kids and a teacher, and of course, and they all get it for sure, and a couple of them get it pretty bad. Uh, Even LL Cool J survives, which, for those of you that know how horror movies typically pan out, especially like not so recent ones, let's just say it doesn't pay to be a person of color in one of these movies. You generally are the first one to go, and people have noticed this. They poke fun of it in other movies. I don't know why that is the case in those older horror movies, but it is. So here it's kind of a surprise he doesn't die. At least I think he doesn't die. I could be wrong on that. I think he does die now that I think about it. So I think the one professor shot him thinking it was Michael Myers. Yeah, he does die. Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to amend the next video once I go back and confirm this. I knew I should have like double checked this movie before I did this video. I did the same thing with Star Trek videos. And but here we are. Keep making the same mistake. But that's what keeps this original. So anyway, this is not a scholarly production by any stretch. Uh, so it comes down to Jamie Lee Curtis ultimately like, no, I'm tired of running. I'm going to face the nightmare once and for all. And she tries to. She like stabs Michael Myers a lot. No, he doesn't die because he stops her from going for the killing blow. And so the police all show up, and like he's in a body bag, and she's like, "Oh, he's not dead. I've seen him survive getting blown up, shot in the face, shot in the chest. Like what little I did to him here is definitely not going to kill him." So she takes the ambulance and drives until finally she sees the body bag start moving, so she knows for sure he's definitely still alive, and crashes in such a way that he winds up wedged between the ambulance and a log, and she has an axe, and he's like, he tries to reach out to her, and for a moment, like I guess idle curiosity gets the best of her because it is her brother. But then at the last second, she's like, "Nope," and decapitates him. And that's where the movie ends because it's meant to be like a standalone and a cap on things. And yeah, so that's where that one ends. And all right, so here is where you have to decide for yourself: does this actually follow 4, 5, and 6? Before I move on to 8 here in a moment, because it can, if you assume that Jamie Lee Curtis is a terrible parent, which you don't have to do a whole lot of assuming. She's not a great parent in this movie either. But it means that she just abandoned her daughter and pretended to be dead. And then once Michael Myers came back, just kept pretending to be dead and left her daughter to her own devices, her like 12-year-old daughter. And then ultimately her daughter dies and she has a grandchild out there somewhere from part 6. So you can go with that and it works. You just have to like, massage some details, but it can work. But what you're supposed to do is assume that this follows up parts 1 and 2 and that 4, 5, and 6 didn't happen. So going by that, the movie makes a lot more sense. Jamie Lee Curtis isn't a completely horrible person. Probably the best way to go. Then we move into part 8. Now, part 8, barring the first few minutes, could either follow 1 and 2, or 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, or 1, 2, and 7, or 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Because part 8 is, like, character-wise, is only connected to the others in the first couple minutes of the movie. Once you move past that, it can be the extension of any of these. It could even be the follow-up to part 2. If you really if you want to just ignore like a couple minutes at the beginning of the movie. So, going with that, part 8 opens with Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, in a mental hospital because you find out that she didn't kill Michael Myers in the end of the last movie. Michael Myers was in it. We had a little retcon action like we do in part 5. Because part 4, I was wrong, does not end with him dynamiting the mine shaft. They just shoot him and he falls down the mine shaft. It's part 5 that shows that scene again, but then adds on the parts where they dynamite the mine shaft. That wasn't actually in part 4. So, you have here where it turns out, excuse me, that the guy she killed wasn't Michael Myers. Uh, while he was laying dead inside the school, or appearing to be so, a paramedic came up and foolishly tried to check his vitals. Well, Michael gets up, grabs the guy by the throat, and crushes his larynx so he can't talk, and then puts his outfit on him and knocks him out, and he takes the paramedic's outfit because no one knows what he looks like underneath the mask. So then he puts him in the body bag, and that's the guy that Laurie killed. And you see Michael kind of like off in the weeds watching this, and then he just kind of drifts into nowhere. So she killed an innocent guy and is now in a loony bin because of it. So Michael shows up, and you're like, the orderly's like, oh, she's always looking out that window. And then now for this particular night, you see why, because Michael's outside. And so she knows he's coming in. I think he takes out a couple security guards, maybe gets into her room. She's not there. He literally goes through a wooden door, like rams it a few times, just like with his chest bodily, and just finally splinters through it. Uh, and then she basically has like rigged up a thing up on the rooftop, and she gets him into it, so he's like dangling headfirst over the ledge, and she's gonna cut it and let him fall like 6 stories, which should kill him, but you know. But he starts doing what the paramedic was doing at the end of the last movie, where he was like grabbing his throat, like he can't talk, and like trying to put his hand out to get her to take his hand. And she decides that she has to be sure, because she did actually see what Michael looked like under the mask back in part one. Uh, so she has to be sure that it's him. And whenever she goes, he grabs a hold of her and is able to stab her and then throw her off the ledge. And so that's where Laurie dies in this chain of events. Of course, the last thing she does is she kisses him on the mouth, and then is like, "I'll see you in hell," and saving a spot for you. And then she falls to her death, and that's the beginning part of the movie. Then it cuts to the college campus, and some kids are there, and they're learning about like the id and the super ego, and the purely malevolent part of the mind, and Michael Myers essentially. And one of them has got them all like this online thing that's going to happen where they're supposed to go explore the Myers house. And here's where we enter our other kind of named stars here, which is where we get man. Oh, that's not good. I got to edit this out. Oh wow. I apologize, folks. I'm actually have to look this up. It's Buster Rhymes. I don't know why I was thinking it's Coolio. He and I believe Tyra Banks. I'm gonna double check on that to make sure. Or go telling you random people are in this. Yes, Tyra Banks. And also Katie Sackhoff. So this is pre Battlestar Galactica Katie Sackhoff. And obviously way pre like Bo Katan Katie Sackhoff. So a bunch of college kids are going to go and explore the Myers house wearing headsets that have video cameras, and the whole thing's being broadcast on the internet. Buster Rhymes owns the company, and Tyra Banks works for him. Now, what the kids don't know is that they have like set up a bunch of stuff in the house so that there's like random stuff to find, because no one knows why Michael went crazy and killed people. So they put a bunch of stuff in there for them to find and fiddle around with. But the kids kind of begin to figure it out, because like some of the things are made in China, which wouldn't have been back in the 60s whenever he went crazy. So as they're showing all this, like kind of early on, you see him tow this muscle car, and from prior movies, you know that's the kind of car that Michael prefers. So he's already there, and you find out eventually that he's like living in the basement eating rats. So he just starts killing them one by one. Kills one of the production people early on before the thing even starts, and yeah, initially Buster Rhymes is dressed up like him at one point, and they confront him, and so they know it's him. And he's like, "Hey, look, you guys need to go along with all this. We're going to make a fortune. Your contracts say you're going to get a cut. Like, just run with it. We're all going to make all kinds of money." And so then turn the cameras back on, and they go back to what they're doing. Well, then they see Michael Myers, and they think it's him until he, like, I think decapitates Katie Sackhoff at that point. And that's when they're all like, "Oh, well, that's clearly not a prop." So yeah, so he starts murdering them, and yeah, it comes down to like Buster Rhymes and one of the girls, and they end up electrocuting Michael Myers. And yeah, it's uh, it's definitely like a movie for its time, like early internet stuff. A lot of that's going on. You got like a B plot of some kid in high school who it's been a while, who I believe is like texting the main girl that survives, and he's like watching her on the thing while they're supposed to be at a party, and then like some other people come in the room like, "Oh yeah, that's the Michael Myers thing, right?" And so there's a little bit back and forth there, but yeah, at the end of the movie, Michael Myers gets electrocuted. Buster Rhymes tries to use kung fu on him. Only kind of works until Michael Myers like super strength overcomes like kung fu because again super strong. Uh, gets zapped, and then they wheel him off. And then the final shot of the movie is uh, they bring in a corpse to the morgue, and the doctor at the morgue's like, "Oh, who we got here tonight?" And they're like, "It's Michael Myers." And like she's like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, it's Michael Myers." And they're like, "We're gonna leave now. Good luck with all this." And she opens up the bag, and then he opens up his eyes, so he's clearly not dead, and she's probably about to be dead. But yeah, so that one, probably not quite as gory as some of the others. Not a not a ridiculous body count like some of them have, but mainly once you move past the first few scenes with Jamie Lee Curtis, it's more or less divorced from the rest of the series. Obviously, like the lore from like 1 and 2 still apply, but like I said, you could easily just be like 1, 2, and then this one, and just say that Jamie Lee Curtis has been in a mental hospital this whole time, or 1, 2, 7, and 8, or 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8, or 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But in no way will this one over here, part 3, factor into your movie making. Nor will the Rob Zombie movies. They're their own thing. Uh, and then this one, these two will not fit in with the final 3. Because the final 3 take a little detour. All these others assume that 1 and 2 occurred. The final 3 only assume that part 1 occurs. I don't even think it assumes part 2 happens. But if it does, it assumes that part 2 was wrong about Laurie Strode being Michael Myers' sister. They kind of talk about that, like, well, didn't they say that? And like, yeah, but they didn't know what the hell they're talking about. So the other 3 almost take on like their own plot, whereas all these don't have any like high-minded attempt at anything. It's they're slasher movies about Michael Myers murdering the crap out of people. Uh, the last 3, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more there, kind of take on like a whole like what would be the actual aftermath of something like that, like the collective trauma that a town would experience with something like that happening from the first 2 movies, and the reaction to that. And then it evolves as the series progresses to hit part 3, where things like really diverge. But I'll talk about those in part 5 of all this. So anyway, that pretty well brings us to the end of all of this for part 3. I don't really know from like a technical standpoint. 1 and 2 look like they were shot together. Like the look, the actual look, physical look of the movie, the sound and everything, it's the same because the same people made them. Very close to each other. 3, it looks like parts 1 and 2. Then 4 and 5 kind of have their own look, but they're cohesive together. Then 6 was clearly made a few years later. The film's a little cleaner, and just other little details. It's clearly a continuation of 4 and 5, but also had a lot of thoughts of its own. Like I mentioned in the other video, for instance, like they never really bring the police into things, and even though it is clearly the sequel to Part 5, it tries to kind of start just going off on its own little thing. And then you get 7 and 8, which again look more similar to each other because of how closely they were filmed together. And 7 seemed to be going along with the whole, like, the trauma of having something like that happen decades ago and overcoming it and facing your fears and all that. 8's a slasher fest. There's no high-minded thing going on there. That's a let's just have Michael Myers show up and kill people. And yeah, so for my part, a little personal anecdote here. The first of these movies that I can recall seeing trailers for them, like the theatrical versions, was probably Part 6. The first one I actually went to a theater to watch was Part 8. And then I saw both the Rob Zombie movies in theaters, but I never did make it to see the 3 newer ones in theaters. It just didn't happen. I wanted to. And I think I have seen the first one at a drive-in in the last couple of years. I think I did. Um, really hoping one of these days to catch the first and second one on, somewhere, or some crazy bastard wants to put the third one on screen somewhere. I'll definitely go watch it. But yeah, so that's just a little personal anecdote there for my own part of the timeline. Because the first one came out before I was born, and I believe the second one did too. So yeah, uh, that's there's not really much else on the technical side. 7 and 8, well, 7 I think dumped the guitar riffs until towards the end of the movie. Then I think they picked back up. There is kind of an atmosphere thing that 7 does at one point. Yeah, the movie's going along, and as the school becomes more and more deserted until finally it's down to the last few people, then eventually, like, the power's out, Michael's just roaming free, and it takes on a whole different feel. And it's like the place is just saturated with evil. You don't know where Michael Myers is. He's just going to come out at any moment and try to kill you. There's no lights on. You know, it becomes a place of terror. Now 8 gets there really quickly because they're already in Myers' house, so there's no real building towards anything like that because you're already there. So, although obviously the movie gets bloodier as it goes along, but yeah, it's just one of those things. Some of these movies have atmosphere like that, some don't. Like the second one definitely does with the hospital, because as the movie progresses, like, there's fewer and fewer people in there because Myers is killing them, and eventually it's like oh, he's probably here. Where is he? Why are all the damn lights off? Things like this. It develops an atmosphere. The first movie does as well. Third movie, 4 and 5, not as much. 6 has an atmosphere, but it's not like that. And then the newer ones kind of go a different route with things. But yeah, so that's about it for part 3 here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, please. Like, share, subscribe. It's YouTube. Presumably that's where you're watching this. Maybe someplace else. Maybe I've branched out by now. We've kind of talked about it internally. I've just got to figure out which of the other services we're going to consider going on to. But anyway, all that aside, parts 4 and 5 are still to come. Like I said, I'm doing these in the movie release order. So 4 is going to be the 2 Rob Zombie movies. Then 5 is going to be the final 3 movies, the more recent ones. And I don't know, might have like an overall kind of look back if there's something that I think I missed that was important, but I probably won't. And I'm going to try to get all these out by Halloween. So part 5 might release on Halloween if I get them all filmed in time. We'll have to see on that. So anyway, thank you folks for watching. Hope you like the kind of souped up intro I did for these. I'm going to try to do that going forward. I got a new editor that's got some little animation things I can program in. It just makes it look nice. Doesn't really help the rest of the video, but, something nice to look at. But anyway, thank you folks for watching. And in the meantime, watch out for the boogeyman.